So recently, I had the realization that being human, being a parent, being a veteran, being a military spouse, being a mother, all these different titles come with so much experience. But at some point, or at one point rather, I didn't have the experience to get where I'm at today. And I was reminded about that recently talking with my son who's on the last phase of basic training, and hearing from him. He made a statement that just screamed through the phone. He didn't actually scream through the phone, but he made a very bold statement. You could tell he was so passionate when he said it. And he said, "This is who I am. This is what I believe. And this is what I'm going to be." And then he said, "This is how I feel about this right now in this moment." And he was talking about a specific situation. But what I saw from that is he used the experiences that he's had as a son, as a teenager, as a growing human, and as someone who's in training. He used all of his experiences to make his decision and to say it so passionately. And it was really, it was feedback back to me, and it was a lesson back to me of like, I tend to really go into myself of like, oh, I could have done this better. Like I'm my own worst critic. Oh, I could do this better in this relationship. I could do this better as a mother. I could do this better as a spouse, as an employee, as a supervisor, as a service member. And it's just a beat up. It's just like a major beat up game inside my own head that is super, super challenging to get out of, right? Or at least that is how it is for me. And so when I heard him say that, and then a couple days later, I was having conversation with some family members about parenting and about how do we know to make the right choice, and how do we know what's best for that situation. And I thought to myself, I don't. I don't know. And just like my son said in that situation, like, this is who I am, this is what I believe in this moment. That gives us the freedom to change moment to moment on what choices we think are best for us based off of our past experiences. And bringing it back to being a military spouse, being a mother, being a veteran, all those things. I've taken on those roles at different stages in my life, and I've handled them differently really every single day based off whatever experience I have at that given moment. Because experiences change and it grows and it expands. And once it grows and expands, I start to look at things differently, and I start to see things differently than I did once before. And this is so true in every area of my life, but it's also really true when it comes to parenting. And as I have thought about the whole parenting idea, and it's like, my aunt said to me last week, actually, which I thought was so beautiful. She said, Chris, like, parenting is the only job that you're given in this world that there are no books, there's no training, there's no basic training, there's no advanced training, there's nothing except for going into it. And there might be books about parenting, how to be the best parent or how to do whatever, right? But how can those books even help us when every child is different and we are different as parents? And then she went on to say something even more that I really loved was, if you have had parents in your life and you've had that parent-child relationship, even though I was the child, they were the parents, you're going to take from that experience and you're going to apply it into when you become a parent, which is exactly what I've done. It's what we all do. But if there was any part of our parenting experience from when we were a child that was lacking, then there's essentially a gap when we go into parent our own children. So for example, I moved out of my parents' house when I was 14 years old. I was about to turn 15. So essentially 14 years old and beyond, I didn't really have much of a parenting relationship with my own parents. So because of that, there could be a gap for me in the teen years when I go to parent my own children. I'm pulling from a basically empty archived experience that I didn't have as a teenager. And so when you think about it, like you think back, if you're a parent now today and you think back to like, when you had a parent child relationship, even though you were the child, if there are any gaps there. So let's say your dad or your mom was in the military and they deployed a lot, say every other year they miss certain things. Well, there could be some gaps. And then how you parent, there could also be gaps. And parenting teens has been, oh my God, such an interesting experience. For one, the kids are not the same. Wouldn't that be? Maybe that'd be kind of boring actually, but they're not the same. They're so different. They like different things. They have different reactions. And so exactly how my son is, who's in basic training, is not exactly how my son is, who is currently, up with my brother and grandpa working on different projects. I mean, they're both very different human beings, and I'm thankful for that. And how I parent them, how I get to parent them is different. And one thing that hit me based off of the advice that my aunt gave me this week, or the statement she made rather, was, oh, I didn't really have much of a parenting experience to pull from when I myself was a teenager. So how I'm parenting my children may be different because I'm pulling from essentially nothing. It could be, pulling from movies or pulling from how I've seen other people parent their teenagers. But again, those situations are going to be very different because I'm different and my children are different than the other people standing next to them. We're all different. We're all different, right? So that was just like such an eye-opening perspective for me this week, and bringing it back to what it means to be a military mom and like my own experiences, how they've impacted how I've parented, and how my son, who's now learning how to become a soldier, he's in the final phase, blue phase of basic training, and how he's pulling from his experiences in life, which have been largely impacted by my experiences as a domino effect, how he's pulling from his experiences in life to come up with his own beliefs, his own choices, his decisions, his perspectives. I mean, you see how it's like such an impactful way to really go out in the world and live. When you think of it, you take a step back and I really look at all of it. And I think of like, wow, how I choose to be each and every moment. All these children that I raise are watching, and then how they choose to be based off of their experience and their perspectives and how they see the world. That's going to impact those around them and their friends and their peers and their teachers. And it's just a domino effect. And the other thing I thought about is my son also shared that he became a squad leader, and then he was platoon leader, and he was all these different leadership roles while he's in training. And I thought, wow, we as parents, military moms, military dads, even you think about it from a perspective of leaders, we have such an amazing opportunity to impact people and how they make their decisions based off how we lead them, how we are being, and how we make our decisions. And we get the freedom to be human in that. And I think of that because I say this often to my 14-year-old especially. He loves to hold me accountable. I love him for that. So whenever he thinks I'm off, he has no problem telling me, which I'd much rather him tell me than not tell me. So I get to know what's going on in his head. But one thing I share with him, and it's not an excuse, but I share with him if there's a new situation that I am faced with him in particular, as a parent, with any of my children, but with him, and there's a new situation that I've never been in before, I tell him openly. If he's like, hey, Mom, I did not like how you did this, this, and this. I'm like, oh, thanks for that feedback, because honestly, I've never been in this situation before. So I'm learning too. And it's so funny. His face was like, what? I'm like, no, believe it or not, like we're not born into this parenting role. Like I was once a child. And he laughs because, he knows, like, obviously you were a child, Mom. Like, it's hard for me to imagine that, but obviously you were a child. And then I share with him, like, yeah, and then, Grandpa and Grandma really weren't around when I was a teenager. So when I was your age, they weren't really around. So, I don't really have a lot of experiences to go off of. It's not bad or good or anything. It's just the fact. And then he was like, oh. I'm like, yeah. So we're literally learning this stage of you being 14, almost 15 together. And on top of that, we're in different generations, we live in a different time, we have different distractions and things happening and all the things around us. So they're impacting, of course, how we see the world. But also, like, I'm learning too. Before this moment, I didn't know what it was going to be like to be in this situation because this moment never happened before. And it's like you see like fireworks go off in their heads, right? You're like, whoa. And it's true for everything. Even if you've had all the experience and your parents were there from day one and they worked a simple 8 to 5 job and you were taken care of by your grandparents. I mean, that was like a beautiful cookie cutter American dream life, right? Like, even that, even if that was your experience, still, when you go to parent, you're never going to really see that same moment ever again. Like how you see things, the perspectives you see from things are going to be different moment to moment. And that same exact moment, exactly how it happened with all the different things happening around it, only happens once. We can't repeat things. They only happen once, exactly how they happened. And then, of course, because we all love our teenagers, like to change things a little bit. Like, oh, okay, so I can make the same mistake again and it'll be slightly different. And you won't get upset that I made the same mistake again because it might be just slightly different. I was like, all right. I see where this is going. So then I come at it from that coaching perspective because, of course, the like, do as I say parenting method does not work. I mean, maybe it does for your children. That's amazing. It does not work for my children. So yeah, I take a different approach. I'm like, okay, of course, yes. If you decide to get in a fight at school, we talk about it, we learn from it, all the things. And then the next day you decide to get in a fight at school again, but you're like, hey, this time we fought about ice cream. Yesterday we fought about basketball. So it's slightly different, Mom. Okay, of course. However, how are you being in that moment? Is that shifting? Is that changing in you? I come at it from a coaching perspective of like, hey, like who are you choosing to be in this moment with your friends or with your not friends? Who are you choosing to be? And how is that impacting your choices? And what experiences are you pulling from in order to act that way? And of course, at that point, I might get a little bit of a deer in the headlights look. But having this constant conversation and then constantly coming from a place of like, when my children, being they, are acting a certain way, I'm like, is this a reflection of me? Am I showing up this way? Let me just look in the mirror and be like, I'm not getting in fights at work about chocolate ice cream, but, essentially like, how am I being? Am I approaching situations using my past experiences, using my beliefs and my perspectives, coming from a place of love, of, hey, like, let me treat all these other humans with love and kindness and all the things? Or am I coming from a place of anger or fear of rejection? So I'm going to be mean. Anger because the mad things didn't go my way. Like, where am I coming from? And then where are they coming from? And how can I coach them to see that in their own perspective, in their own way? What was really like eye-opening for me with all these multiple thoughts that I'm sharing with you all is as I was hearing my oldest son talk about his experience and being a leader and a leadership role and training and all those different things. And as I was hearing him talk about it, I thought to myself, wow, like we are literally shaping tomorrow's leaders as parents. I mean, duh, maybe just my little brain finally, it clicked for me like, oh my gosh. And not to have it be like scare the crap out of me and like make me afraid that like I'm going to do it wrong because I'm shaping tomorrow's president. But no, like how I am being is exactly what my kids are going to see, and the experiences they are going to draw from and create their own beliefs and perspectives is what they are witnessing, how they are seeing me live day in and day out. And then they will go and choose to live their life however they're going to live it, but they're going to draw from something. Of course, just like I'm drawing from something, whether it was a gap in parenting or not, I'm drawing from something. And we get to impact that as parents. And yes, they could be presidents or colonels in the military or whatever it is, future leaders. They're going to be a leader in some way, shape, or form. Doesn't matter what they do, they're going to be a leader. You can be a leader being a teacher. Oh, those are some amazing leaders. More power to the teachers out there. But seriously, like looking at it from that perspective. And so now it's starting when I wake up in the morning. And I love to get up at 5. I haven't been getting up at 5 this week, but that's okay. I love to get up at 5. I love to work out. I love to like go for my walk, do my push-ups, whatever I'm going to do, and drink my coffee and my greens and my vitamins. And if I lag in those areas, and then my kids got to bed, and I'm like, hey, did y'all work out today? Did y'all like have good balance and variety today? And they're looking at me like, did you? Well, that's a very fair question. And not only do they maybe ask me that, but what are they seeing? Are they seeing me slack off? And if they are, what do I need to clean up? So that way I can support them in cleaning up whatever it is they need to clean up and how they're living their life. Fast forward a little bit, going back to how it has been as a military mom to see my son go through some intense training. And I say intense because like I went through basic and I was 23 and I felt like it was a lot. I had 2 toddlers. I had just had a baby. I had a toddler, but I still had a little bit of life experience as an adult under my belt. My son is going through and he's 17 years old, and it's a program where you can join the military prior to your senior year of high school. And it occurred to me like this is a beautiful opportunity because they don't have a lot of experience, but they have experience. And this whole opportunity and situation, training environment is supporting them in creating different experiences, different perspectives, and different beliefs. And I thought it was so amazing how within a matter of days, he was called the squad mom because he was handing out cough drops to those who were getting sick. He was called the caregiver and the peacemaker because he was creating peace in the bay, which is like the barracks of where they're all sleeping, when they were fighting over staff duty and they were fighting over this and that. And he created a system to where they could all share the load and not one person would get bullied or taken advantage of. And I thought was cool about that is last year when he was in theater, there was a similar situation and he was supported and talking that through with my spouse and I about how he can create that inclusiveness in the theater group. So maybe he pulled from that experience and then he went and used it when he was apart from us in this training environment. I don't know. But I like to think that as parents, we have such an amazing opportunity to impact how our children think, walk, and live in the world as they grow and as they become adults, and essentially how they walk as leaders, how they walk as humans, and how they treat others, how kind they are, how loving they are, how much of a caregiver that they are. Such a beautiful experience, such a beautiful opportunity. And even maybe a little bit more so as a military mom, military dad, if you've held that role, if you've watched your child go through training, like, wow. I mean, you're seeing them make a commitment on their own. You're seeing them do things on their own without you, without me, without us. They're doing it on their own, but they're pulling from something. And I like to tell my children, I say this a lot to them, everything you need is within you. And they'll look at me like, well, I don't have this. No. Everything that you need to be you is already in you. It may have not been woken up yet. It may not be alive yet, but it's already in you. We had this thing where when I would deploy or go to training or be gone for a while with work, I would tell the kids, we all look at the same moon. You're sad, you go outside, you look up at the moon. I did the moon instead of the sun because I don't want them to go blind. But so you go outside, look at the moon, you're like, mom's looking at the moon too. We all look at the same moon. We're all connected in some way, shape, or form. So everything that you need, that inner strength, that inner love, that inner grit to get through things that are hard, it's already alive in you. And sometimes when we get to a darker place, whether we're overwhelmed or sad or frustrated or angry, we put on a positive movie. I told my son this when I was dropping him off at the airport before he left for training. I looked him in the eyes and I said, there will be moments that you will hate life and you are going to want to give up. And you have to remember this. Everything that you need to get through that painful moment is already alive in you. So you think back to something that means the most to you in that moment, in that painful situation, and you put that positive movie on in your head. And you play it loud. You play it loud. And you use it to get through whatever complicated situation that you are in, whatever challenge you are in. You have what it takes to get through it. It's already alive in you. Sometimes we just got to wake it up. And those movies that are in our kids' heads, all those thoughts, all those experiences, our perspectives, we have the ability to impact it as parents. And simply how we choose to live our life, authentic we're being, just how we're being us and being human, acknowledging that, hey, I'm learning right alongside you, kid. Not an excuse, just a fact of life. And I get to fail, acknowledge, apologize, pick myself back up, and do it all over again as many times as it takes. This is our life. This is my life. This is your life. And we get to live it full.